Hey everyone, welcome to Marvel-ous Movie Mondays with Kelsey and Dill. Take two. We tried recording this earlier. This is why we don't do it live. We tried doing this earlier. My mic is having issues. My computer that I normally stream on, my favorite thing in the world, has not been working. And so it's frustrating. And I've been showing some of that frustrating on TikTok. And so we did a whole intro talking about the writer's strike and that effect on the MCU. And now I'm just kind of like, you know what, let's just get into Secret Invasion. How are you doing, Kels? I already asked you this the first time we tried to record it, but how are you doing, Kels?
Dill, I'm better now. I was, the New York has just been really New Yorking on me this Saturday evening. I was just got home from work, but now that I've had some dinner, I've had some nice cold ice water. I'm like in a totally different headspace now. I knew that everything that was like happening to me because like my train shut down. I had to get on a bus. I tried to get in the cab. The cab driver kicked me out. So
Why
much
did it kick you
happened.
out?
Because it was the first cab I saw, and it was going downtown, and I was going up down to my apartment, and I was like, "Hey," and he was like, "Oh no, you have to get in a cab on another side." I was like, "You can't just turn around." He was like, "There's," I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to get into it."
Yeah.
It was the first time in my life I really felt violent
I'm walking
towards
in.
another.
Yeah, like wanting to get the accent in. Yeah. I'm just like so pissed off with all my laptop stuff that I'm in a bad mood. And what a perfect segue to talk about Secret Invasion. Because we have been pretty negative on it. And critically negative, not just like, oh, it fucking sucks, but like we've been like actually like giving it criticisms, but like, we haven't been thrilled with it. So we will talk about episode 4 and see if it's an improvement or if it's continuing down along this path. But I do want to say we did kind of talk all about the writer's strike on the last take. It's not going to be usable for footage, but like go check out stuff about the writer's strike and the SAG strike because that SAG just joined in first time since 1960 where they've both been striking at once. It has a lot to do with the MCU and the trajectory because everything's put on halt, but I think it's important because it's good to get everyone their fair wages and show that we cannot be replaced by CGI and AI. Which the producers keep threatening to do. So I'm going to link a video actually by a critic, Dan Murrell, a colleague of mine who made an amazing video about the writer's strike. So I'm going to put that in the description below so you can check that video out. It gives you all the ins and outs of the writers and SAG strike. So check that out. All right, let's get into Secret Invasion though, Kels. I don't want to spend too much time dwelling on the negative of the writer's SAG strike, and I want to or positive because I think it's a positive thing they're doing after a negative treatment. But you know what I mean. But how are you feeling about Secret Invasion now that we're 4 episodes in? Anything change? Still don't like it? Has this one kind of redeemed it this episode? What do you think?
So luckily, the best thing to happen in this whole show happens right off the bat. But I'll just tell you my summary real quick for episode 4. Oh no, I fucked up my notes. Anyway, so Secret Invasion episode 4 titled Beloved. And so my really quick summary for this one is just things get worse. Whether or not I wrote that about my opinion of the show or of just like the plot of the show in general, it's probably for both. Which tells you right off the bat my feelings towards this show.
So it's very interesting because our first 2 episodes, you were a fan, I wasn't. Then the 3rd episode, we kind of both were like, no, this is not good. And then the 4th episode, you're like, still not good. And I'm like, not bad.
Interesting.
I honestly think, I still don't like the idea of the show. I think it's very anti-immigration, whatever, very right-wing. But I do think this episode, I think because it was more spent on Fury and his character moments than it was the overall plot of what's going on, I think I enjoyed it a lot more. Like, it's all about Fury now kind of looking at his own life and, like, looking at the connections around him more so than like this overall grand scheme of things. And I think that's why I appreciated it. It gets a little bit into the grand scheme of things at the end, but like this episode was very much contained to his relationship with his wife, his relationship with Rhodey, and then kind of at the end, his relationship with Talos. And I think that's why it was kind of okay for me. Like it's still not great. And I think there are moments we'll talk about that were frustrating, but I still think overall this is the strongest episode yet. But that's like a low bar to clear, if that makes sense.
I don't know, Dill. I just feel differently.
And we can hear why you didn't like the episode. Because we start off with the answer to last week being they couldn't kill Emilia Clarke, right? And sure enough, they didn't. So
yes, which is what did I write? The only good thing to come out of this whole series. That's what I wrote down word for word in my notes. So basically, we start right off. We're at the scene of the crime where Gravik shot Gaia, and we find out that before Gaia hit the road on her little motorbike, she actually gave herself the experiment that Gravik was working on, and she gave herself extremis, so she was able to heal that bullet wound.
Right.
For and survive.
Yeah.
So Amelia Clarke is back and better than ever. Might I?
And I'll say this is actually one of the things I was frustrated with. That's what's so funny. Well, no, here's the thing. I like more Amelia Clarke. I'm all for that.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing is, like, how many times has Marvel done this now, where they've been like, you lost this character, oh, psych, you know? And I feel like they shouldn't have teased Extremis earlier. Make this the moment where you reveal that Extremis is a thing, because I think that would have gotten a much better reaction than, oh yeah, we saw Gravik use it that one time when they stabbed his hand, and we saw it in the test tube, so we know the Extremis is going to have a big point. Because if you didn't know that, imagine how much cooler this moment would be. You know, it just felt like, okay, yeah, sure. So the last moment you just gave us in the last episode was just made for a cliffhanger to leave us hanging, and of course it felt unsatisfying because they knew she was going to survive anyway, but to the audience, we didn't. So it felt so unceremonious. So it's like one of those things where I'm like, if you're going to make it a cliffhanger, make it felt. Like, give it a big moment and then give us this giant reveal. You know, that's what Game of Thrones did so well. I know you've never seen it, but you said in your notes app, TikTok, you never will. So I'm going to just say there was a big character that didn't die in the books that they killed off in the show that everyone was going crazy about. And then they had a whole season break before the premiere of the next season where they brought it back. And I think that's kind of what you have to do. When going week to week, I don't think that effect really has much effect, you know? But I don't know. So it was nice to see her back, but I'm like, all right, I've seen this before.
Right. Which is like one of my complaints as a whole is that, like, I feel like what everyone was talking about when Marvel first started coming out with the TV shows, like post WandaVision, obviously, because I think that's probably everyone's favorite at this point to this day, maybe. But you know, Falcon and the Winter Soldier came out, Loki, you know, all these different projects, and everyone was saying, well, these aren't even TV shows. They're like, you know, 6-hour long movies that they just like cut up into episodes. And this is the only show that I like really felt that to be true. Where we're cutting and where we're starting and what is happening arc wise in every episode just feels so off in this series to me for some reason.
Yeah, the episodes don't feel like they have their overarching themes and narratives. It more so feels like, a 6-hour movie that we're like, all right, we're going to pause here. And I think that's why I kind of like this one, is because this did feel much more like the Nick Fury character piece than it did anything else. So I think that's why this is the only one that felt sort of episodic. But yeah, I agree. I just think the cliffhanger wasn't really cliffhanger. And then the other cliffhanger that we kind of questioned of, oh, Rhodey, like, and you didn't even realize it was his voice on the phone, confirmed it is. But I mean, it's also another one where it's kind of like, that's not really a cliffhanger, because like I kind of got the vibe he was a Skrull as soon as he fired Nick Fury. Like, why would Rhodey be a dick? You know? So I feel like I think they think they're a lot more clever and a lot more like mind blow than they actually are. I think they think that they're blowing our minds more than they actually are.
And it must be interesting and really difficult to try to make something now that is so wide ranging with its audience, because like you have like 12-year-old kids who watch the show, you have teenagers, you have young adults, and then you have like, you know, probably full on adults that have been watching from, you know, the year 2008. So it's probably like really complicated for them to like want to, you know, like not have these moments so obvious, but then thinking about like the 12-year-old that's like into Marvel, like we kind of have to spell some things out for them. So it's probably a challenge for them. But anyway, speaking of like the Nick Fury character piece, after we get our AI intro, we are transported back into Paris. It is 2012. It is post Battle of New York, and Fury is meeting up with Priscilla in a cute little French cafe. They talk about some poetry that they like together. Priscilla's telling him about this poetry book she likes by this man named Raymond Carver. And they kind of read this poem, either titled Beloved, or that's just like the main theme. So we get our little title of our episode drop in this moment. And then we're back at present day. We're in a church with Priscilla, and she's there to meet quote unquote Rhodey. Which in this scene, this is pretty much where it is confirmed, like he is 100% a Skrull and working for Gravik and not the Rhodey that we all know and love. So my question is how long has Rhodey been a Skrull?
Yeah, I think that's the big question at hand.
Forever?
I can't fathom a world where Endgame Rhodey is not the Rhodey we know, because he gets emotional over Tony's death. He has his moments. He still feels like the same old Rhodey. I'm thinking maybe Falcon Winter Soldier is where we see that switch. I think so. The only thing is,
you think?
Because he's in that one episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier or whatever. But I'm not sure because they set up in this episode and in the scene, I guess. Well, no, it's in a later scene. It's confirmed that Priscilla's been working against Fury since she met him. Like, it's all been a long game. So if that is the case, then it could very well be that the Rhodey we've had the entire MCU is not Rhodey. But I just feel like that's too weird. I feel like there would have been too many times, like, why are they backstabbing him now? Like, I really think it's a recent development. And also because we all know they have to, like, take the body to become the body or whatever. And, like, so there's got to be a Rhodey sitting around somewhere with his head all, you know.
You think there's a Rhodey that's, like, in that thing that's, like,
probably
with the wiggly things
or
by
he's
his
dead.
brain?
So I'd hope it's not the latter, because I think there's still more.
Yeah, me neither.
And we know we're getting Armor Wars, so we know he's going to lead that. It's just, is it going to be Skrull Rhodey leading that, or is it going to be the real Rhodey? Is it a prequel, sequel, whatever? So I think that's where it gets a little complicated now. But I think that's a fun question, because it's like, oh, we get to, like, kind of trace our minds through the MCU and see, like, where it could have changed,
where it could have turned.
But that's also kind of the detriment to all these series, is that they definitely weren't thinking about Secret Invasion when they made Iron Man 2. So, like, if he's supposedly a Skrull since then, like, there's no way that the creators were making those scenes and Don Cheadle was acting those scenes with that intention in mind, to where I could see there be moments of disconnect. So where I think they should try to make it a recent development, because if they try to backtrack it, then there's going to be so many flaws that people are going to be able to pinpoint out of, where they're like, but at this moment when he did this, and him, like, paralyzing himself, you know? Because also, as we know, when Skrulls get hurt, they change. So if he was paralyzed, wouldn't his legs turn green if he was Skrull in Captain America Civil War? You know what I mean? It's like all those things kind of go to your mind. So if they do say he's been a Skrull this whole time, then there's a lot of questions to answer for, which I don't think they want to put themselves in that corner.
For sure. So basically, he gives Priscilla instructions to kill Fury. And we find out that Fury is listening to them. He's bugged Priscilla's, I'm assuming, like, her cell phone, because we got that shot of him, you know, looking at the phone for a long period of time. He's bugged them, and he's listening in on everything. So he, like the Fury we all know and love, he is back to being one step ahead.
See, I thought, I mean, maybe I'm just reading into this, I thought maybe he bugged her wedding ring, because she's always like, you got to wear your ring. I think she made his ring a tracking device for him. And that's why she wants him to always wear it.
You think they're tracking each other?
Well, that's what I think he picked up on, the fact that he's probably like, why does she always want me to wear my wedding ring? And then I always thought in this episode it kind of clicked, where I was like, maybe he just doesn't want to be tracked. And maybe he kind of caught on to that, and he's like, yeah, well, guess what? I'm going to bug her. But I don't know. It might not be. But I was trying to think, why is he so, like, against wearing his wedding ring? Because he's still, well, I guess maybe he just doesn't want to be involved anymore with her. But it just, I don't know. It just seems weird that they're making that such a big focus of the wedding ring thing, unless they're trying to show that they're estranged, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. What I gathered from that is that he didn't wear it out in public. Like, I don't think he wears it except when they're together in the house, because I think that's just kind of like a thing for them. Because I don't think anybody knows about this relationship that Nick Fury has.
Right. Okay, so I'm
like
just reading into it too much. I'm trying to, in my brain, I'm like, oh wow, that's so creative. Like, their wedding ring is the way of tracking each other. I'm like, no, it's not. It's just literally he doesn't want to be seen with a wedding ring in public, and that's it.
Could be. Who knows still. So then we have this scene between Gaia and Talos where they meet up, and she basically just asks him, what's your plan? Because Gravik, he has a plan. He's mobilizing armies. Like, he's getting shit done. And if you want people to listen, respect, and follow you, you also need to bring something to the table here that's going to work. And Talos is basically just like, well, I was thinking that we would just say, pretty please. Right. Pretty please let us live on your planet. And his whole thing is like, he says that they're going to have a big bargaining chip, because they're going to stop Gravik from taking over the world. And they're going to go to the president and be like, listen, we just saved your planet. Maybe you should, throw us a bone here. Give us a state to occupy. Mm-hmm. So, Guy's just like, you're delusional. I don't really know where she stands at this point. Right. I guess it makes sense. That would be like way too much character development for her to just go from being Team Gravik to being like, all right, well, I'm going to blindly just support you then because you're my dad. Like, I kind of like that she's like, well, I don't know.
But also, like, given what we see at the end of the episode, I kind of wish there was a little bit more to this conversation, a little bit more emotion, because, like, this is the last time we see them talking as father and daughter, assumedly. I mean, maybe Talos is going to be alive too. But, like, it's one of those things where I'm like, I wish there was like almost a more emotional goodbye almost, but I guess maybe they didn't want to foreshadow it. But this is like my big qualm with the episode is like, for the fact that this character dies at the end and it's this monumental thing, it really doesn't feel like they give him a final like moment with Fury or his daughter. It just feels like it just happened. Which is why it would have been better as a movie, because they have those scenes in other episodes, but in this episode they don't.
That's why it makes me feel like it's not even a real death. And I'm like, did we just end this episode the same way we ended the last episode? And now the next episode is going to start with, haha, joke's on you, faked ya out. Talos is really alive. I'm like, what? This is a broken record at this point.
Right.
So
and yeah, like I said, if it's a full movie and you have those scenes, great, because it means there's emotional connection. But if you hadn't watched episodes 1, 2, 3 this week, and you only watched episode 4 because it's been a week, you might not remember all those emotional conversations with Fury and Talos. And if you're just going off of this episode, Talos, it's like he just dies and it's just kind of whatever, and it's sad because he's a great character. But we'll get there in a second.
So now we're back at Priscilla and Fury's house, and they confront each other, and Nick Fury kind of starts this whole speech about how he's like, you are the worst mistake I've ever made. I cannot believe that like I've let myself be involved with you all these years. Like I can't believe I trusted you. And so Priscilla gives us a story about how she kind of like chose the woman that she's been embodying, the human that she's been embodying all these years. And basically
it was a dying woman.
Dr. Priscilla Davis, I want to say her name was.
I don't know.
So basically she was dying. She didn't want anybody to know. And, Priscilla and her kind of made an agreement where it was like, well, if you let me kind of be you for the rest of your life, like it's kind of sweet how she's like, oh, I just asked her one day. And Nick Fury was like, what, you asked if you could take over her life? And she goes, no, I asked her if she wanted to fall in love. And I thought that was like a sweet sentiment, like a way of looking at it. Mm-hmm. And so she kind of like takes over. And so the woman, Priscilla, the real Priscilla Davis makes Priscilla make her 3 promises. The first being that she will bury her at sea, which she did. That she would 2, that she would continue being a daughter to her parents. So her parents have thinking she's alive this whole time. And then 3, that she would never hurt Nick Fury. That was the 3rd promise.
And that's where you get all the character you need for Priscilla. I'll be honest, this scene, I love this scene. Like, I really did. I was like, scene. Wow. Because you get a lot, because this whole time you've been like, who is this Priscilla? Like, why are we doing this? And then, like, you realize that there is a lot more emotional baggage to that, because she does want to fight for the scrolls, but she also promised that she wouldn't hurt Nick. And I think she actually did, because we find out later that she's also been, like, from the beginning, we find out in the scene that from the beginning, she was playing him. She was getting to him so she could betray him. But I think we learn in this conversation that there's an actual love that has developed, and that it is genuine. And I think that's what makes this so. That's why I like this episode so much, because this conversation really kind of has the most nuance, I think, of anything else that's been talked about in this series so far. And I think the two of them acted it really well. I love the final moment where you think they shoot each other, but then it pans back and it's like they both shot the wall, because they can't do it, because they do love each other. And I think that's like, oh, that's so good. I don't know. This scene, I was like, where's this show been?
There was something really theatrical and I was always told in theater school that like if you show a gun in act 1, it's gonna go off in act 3. So like there's something just so like beautifully dramatic about them both just like taking out their guns and laying them on the table to like have the whole conversation. And then, so you think it's like almost like a peace offering, like, look, I'm putting my gun on the table. I'm not even going to like touch it.
Right.
And then ending with them both firing. And then first you get the shot of Priscilla, you see that she's fine. And then you're thinking, holy shit, did she just shoot Nick Fury? But then you find out that they both just like actively chose to miss, and you're right.
Yeah.
It was
the key is they actively chose it too. It's not like they both just missed.
No,
they're like,
they're not
we
both.
missed.
We're both shitty shots. What the hell?
Stormtroopers.
So then they both kind of agree to and then Nick has this great line where he's like, I don't know if that means that we should get a divorce or we should renew our vows.
Right.
But they both kind of agree to like go their separate ways, and you know, he's like, they're gonna come after you because you didn't follow instructions, you didn't kill me. And she's like, well, I'm a big girl, I can handle it. And so we kind of have this like these departing words with them. So now we cut to the scene in the hotel room where we see the Skrull that's pretending to be Rhodey.
And again, like they made it so obvious, and they even in the church, like they don't say it, but the way he's talking to Priscilla, we know it. To where that whole like swoop where he does the mirror and then you see it's Don Cheadle. I'm like, that means not like do that 2 episodes ago, and we would have been like, oh, but now it's like we know it's not like this huge reveal, but they try to make it up like it's this huge reveal. But it's
honestly. Dill, we're more than halfway through the show, and I'm disappointed that we didn't have more moments like that. Like I thought this show was gonna be like literally anybody can be a Skrull. You have no idea, kind of more of like a mind fuck than it is right now. Because like I wanted more moments where like it was like the mirror, and then like you find out that they transformed, and you're like, like I wanted more of like that, and that's just not what this show has been. And maybe that's my own fault for, thinking that it was going to be something that it's not.
But let's talk about this next scene, because I did also really like this scene.
Yes. So basically, Nick Fury comes in there to confront him. He says that he's there mainly to apologize. He wants to squash the beef between him and Rhodey. At this point, Nick knows that Rhodey is not Rhodey, and that Rhodey is fully a Skrull, and that he also wants to ask for his job back. And because he's trying to convince Rhodey, like, there's Skrulls in the U.S. government, one really close to the president, as close as you and I are right now. Like, and I thought that eventually the Skrull was going to put 2 and 2 together, but then I think it's a female Skrull. She never did. Just because like she had really feminine like eyelashes, and then she also had the towel covering her chest. So I thought it was I don't know. I don't want to put, gender norms on this Skrull, but
no, you're good.
Don't come for me. I'm very them. I'll just call them them.
Yeah. No, but I will say though, I kind of love this, because it's like one of those things where usually I don't like to be told what I like to kind of figure things out on my own, which I guess we did with Rhodey, but like I like how we as the audience fully know that Rhodey's a Skrull. So when watching Nick kind of play the Skrull, like kind of like fool this Skrull and like mess around with the Skrull, it's really funny because Nick is trolling him the whole time. Like Nick's being a troll right now, and I love that. I love that.
And also, so he comes in with this like bottle of bourbon. He's like, "Oh, you're gonna love this. This is like a family like thing." And he's
he plays the black card too. To where like that's another thing where like the reactions that Don Cheadle's giving or Rhodey's giving is like a little off, to where it's like, this is not Rhodey.
Right. And so he's like, Rhodey sits down and is like, "Oh, do I have to worry about poison?" And then Nick's like, "No, but more like nanotechnology." And it's like kind of a ha ha ha, but it's like, no, that's exactly what I did.
That is
like I put a tracking device in you via liquid. And then I watched it, because I watched them all twice. So I watched it the first time, I didn't catch that line at first, but then when I watched it the second time, I was like, oh, he told him right then and there that he was doing it, but he just like played it off like it was a joke. I thought that was smart. And so Rhodey has a counter. He goes, "Can I give you my counterpoint now?" And so he reveals to Nick that he does have video footage of Gravik as Nick Fury shooting Maria Hill. Mm-hmm. And he says, "So if you keep bothering me about your job and you keep interfering in my work here, I will release this to the public and you'll have to go on trial and defend yourself. And what are you going to do? Say, no, that's actually an alien pretending to be me?" And so, it's kind of like this little bit of a checkmate moment Nick Fury, but he came what he wanted to do, because he didn't really want his job back. He wanted to track him, so he came what he did to do when he put the tracking device in him through Bourbon. And so now Rhodey meets up with the president. Him and the president at this moment where the president's like, "Have you been drinking? Like, you need a coffee." And so now we get to the big Gravik attack. Gravik attacks the cavalry with the president. He gets flipped upside down. He's upside down in the car. And so now Nick and Talos come speeding to the scene of the crime. And we get that cool shot of them in the car, and it like pans out. And now we're not in the car with them anymore. And we watch the car drive away.
Right.
It's just like, if you're gonna have cool moments like that, like just like I don't know, don't do it half-ass. Like, that was a cool moment. It should have been like more integrated moments like that, I guess. There's this moment during the battle where we see Gravik actually have Groot powers. He shoots his arm out like a branch,
which again would have been awesome if they didn't advertise it 2 episodes ago with the little vials of Grootness. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it was cool. It was cool.
And so Fury's main focus is to save the president, because it's like, if the U.S. president gets assassinated by these people impersonating Russia, like, that's game over. So we need to get him safe and out of this battle zone here. And so Fury and Talos both go to save the president. Talos is trying to break open the bulletproof windows to get him out of there, but he does get shot. So now he can't use his like Skrullness anymore to like stay looking like a human. He kind of has this like half morphing back into his true skin thing happening, so that his body can focus on keeping him alive now that he's shot in the shoulder, and also using his full strength to break this window. And I thought that was a really cool moment between this like half transitioning thing that was going on with him.
I love that, and great makeup work too, because that's all makeup. That's not CGI. I love the whole transition where like every time he punches, it like weakens him and he's becoming weaker and weaker. But that's also kind of where I was like, oh, I think they're gonna kill him off, because like it was so like the Emilia Clarke one was so quick to where I was like, we had those doubts, but here it was like it was really building to where I was like, oh, this is it for him. But like I hope it's not. But let's.
So then, as he's morphing back into his Skrull nature, one of the I think it's like a British, because this is all taking place in London. So one of the British soldiers that joined the fight to protect the president is like, hey, that he's an alien. He's trying to get to the president. And Nick has this moment where he's like, no, like, hold your fire. Like, he's with us. He's a good guy. And so now we cut to Nick, they pull the president out of the car. They're trying to get him to Nick's car. And so now Gravik is impersonating that soldier that was like, that's a bloody alien, and is holding Talos up, like, he's using Talos as a bargaining chip with Nick Fury to be like, hey, I have your friend now, just hand over the president, like, you can have your friend back, kind of thing. And Nick is like, put him down now, starts shooting at Gravik. Obviously he has Extremis, he has all these different, who knows what he has at this point. And so he's healing himself like nothing. Bullets are, he's impenetrable basically at this point. And he stabs Talos in the bullet hole, and basically Nick leaves him there for dead, because he's thinking of the greater good and thinking of the president and thinking like, I just got to get the hell out of here and prevent World War III from
Which
happening.
Again felt like a really big character moment for Nick, because it's like really between choosing love or the world. Like, it's really tough, because like I don't know what I would do in the moment. Would I choose a friend, or would I go for literally preventing World War III, because the president dies, like you said, Russia killed him, like that's it, that's World War III. So it really is such an interesting dilemma that I kind of liked. And I feel like this is the one time where like the ending of the episode that felt like an ending of an episode, where we were like, all right, this is the end of that, we're moving into the final act. I really did feel that. Like I really thought between the scene with him and Priscilla in the dining room, the scene with him and Rhodey, which had a little comedy to it, and then this final scene, I thought like this was across the board the most entertaining episode. Now there's one other thing we haven't talked about, which is a big thing. Where's Olivia Colman?
Oh yeah.
You had Olivia Colman for 6 episodes, and one of them you don't even put her in. she's only had a scene in each one so far, but she wasn't even anywhere to be seen here. I'm like, you're literally wasting the most talented person in your cast right now. So that was another thing. And I know maybe there just wasn't anywhere to put her, but like give her one scene at least. What are your thoughts now here at the end of this episode? I know you said you were still negative on it, but like overall thoughts of this episode.
Well, Dill, all I'm thinking right now is, sorry, I dropped my pen. All I'm thinking right now is like, this is either going to go one of two ways. A, they killed off my favorite character in this whole series, Talos. And now I'm just going to be sad about that because that means no more Talos for the rest of the MCU. Sad. Or two, they're just doing another fake out again. And I'm like, you just did this an episode ago with Gaia. So if it cuts, so if we get to episode 5 and it cuts to like Talos ending up being okay, I'll be happy, but also I'll be like, this feels like kind of like lazy writing to me.
What was it all for? Yeah. Right. I just feel like, I agree.
So I know you feel like
hit
it's
the high
definitive,
points, but I'm like, if it is definitive, I think it's like a bold choice, whatever. But also then it just felt like he never had a final moment with Fury. He never had a final moment with Gaia. Like it just feels unceremonious. Where you're right, it almost feels like they're gonna bring him back too. But I don't know. I really don't know what to expect from this show, but it's not the type of unexpected like WandaVision where I'm like, I have no idea what to expect. I'm like, I have no idea what to expect. It's a different tone.
No, yes, that's exactly what I was thinking when I was thinking about this. When I was thinking about this show in general, I was like thinking to myself, I'm like, this show is keeping me on my toes, but like in the worst way. Like I just like I don't know where they're going because I genuinely like it's not in like an anticipatory like, ooh, can't wait to see what happens next way. It's in a like, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know why you're making these choices.
Also, Rhodey was just chilling, right? He did nothing happen with him. He's just kind of chilling.
Yeah, Rhodey wasn't even there at the final battle because he like obviously
like car,
gave Gravik the go ahead, like, oh, this is where we are. These are coordinates. Like, go ahead, do your thing. And I guess him and his car, his people just drove off. I guess I don't know.
You know what's gonna? This is my prediction because how did Nick Fury and Talos know that they were all there to kill the president? Rhodey, because he put the tracking device on Rhodey. So you know what's gonna happen. I think Gravik is gonna be like, you. How did Nick Fury know to find us here? We were supposed to assassinate the president. How did Nick show up? It was your fault. By Rhodey, they're gonna kill Rhodey, and then Gravik's gonna like, and then it's gonna. My whole theory alone has been that Gravik is Nick Fury and Priscilla's son. I think Priscilla's gonna go to Gravik and be like, listen, I'm your mother. We need to, and like that's gonna be how she like kind of talks him off the edge, and then like they all reconcile at the end. That's my whole picture. Is like Rhodey turns out to be the one that kind of gets the last like fuck you, but then Gravik has some redemption, and then I don't know. That's my prediction, but I don't know where else this is gonna go.
Based off the ending of this episode, it's like Gravik seems like kind of indestructible. Like how are they going to kill him? Like he will heal himself and whatever else he has going on powers wise. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just kind of like, whatever. Like I like this episode a lot more than the other ones, but I'm still just like, So we'll see.
It definitely had good moments. I just think that this show is so weirdly paced, and like the chunks that we're getting in each episode are just so weird. Like they didn't even attempt to make this feel like a TV show. Like it feels like they recorded 6 hours of footage without even knowing where they were gonna like do their beats at the end. So it's just like,
let's do it at the end of every death or fake out of a death. But then last one, that wasn't even after Amelia Clark's death. It was after the phone call. So like, I don't know.
Right.
It doesn't feel episodic in the way that WandaVision did, and I'd say She-Hulk did. I think those are the only two shows that have actually utilized the episodic formula best. I even think the other ones have elements where it's like, this could have just been one movie, but I still think they found good places to put their cliffhangers. That's the difference, Whereas WandaVision and She-Hulk, it was literally episodic by nature. She-Hulk, it was like every episode was a different case, a different journey for her. And then for WandaVision, it was quite literally every episode was a different genre of sitcom. So like that's kind of where they use their advantage most. But here it's just like, I don't know. But any other? Go ahead.
You know what we should do one day, Dale? We should
watch them all. Oh, I thought you were going to say watch them all as one movie without breaks and judge it as a movie. But
Oh, yeah, we should. You know, we should watch before we do that together, finally? Stranger Things Season 4.
Oh, that's right. We were supposed to watch that together for years now. We haven't.
It's been out for years, and I really want to watch it. So maybe if we're going to get together and watch something, maybe it should be that. But what I was going to say is maybe we should rank all the Disney Plus projects.
Yeah, sure.
Pitch.
Yeah, let's do it. Any other words on this episode, though? Yeah.
And it was strange that this episode was the shortest of the four. This one,
but I feel like the most actually happened, which is funny, you know.
But like, did it though? Because I don't know.
You know, you're probably right. Did it?
I'm like not convinced.
Just a lot of good stuff happen? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna go rewatch it though. You watched this episode twice. I only watched them once. Yeah. So.
I watched them twice. One to just like watch it, and then the second time to like take the notes. But like, you're right. We did get good moments. Like I did enjoy that scene between Nick and Priscilla, and the scene between him and Rhodey, but not Rhodey. But still, like the things that I was excited about most in this show are the things that are getting put on the back burner. And what did I say I was excited about? I was excited about Olivia Colman and the relationship between Gaia and Talos. And now both of them, first I thought Gaia was dead. Now I think Talos is dead. It's like, what'd they do to me? It's like they heard me say that and they were like, rewrite the show.
Yeah.
Kelsey's too excited. Shut it down.
Yeah. And then what do we get instead? We just got a lot of pouty Nick Fury, some bland visuals, and a scroll that is making Kelsey question gender dynamics. Love that.
Okay, I'm sorry, but
I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding.
Anyway.
But the whole talking point of your show should not be, well, what gender of Skrull is Don Cheadle's character in Secret Invasion, you know? That should be the 10th thing we think about. But it's the only
shouldn't even be in the top 100, Bill.
Right.
I just thought that I think that if they reveal that it is a female identifying Skrull, I almost said squirrel. If it is a Skrull that identifies as a female, I think that that's an interesting take because, you know, they've been pretending to be this like guy in the government and I would be like badass, you know? So that's the only reason why I brought it up. It's not like I care. I'm not like, listen, I'm not one of those people that's like.
Yeah. Well, no, but that would also be cool because then now Don Cheadle is also a feminist icon, which is cool.
Because I want to know her story, this Skrull story or their story or, you know, whoever they may be.
Yeah, why do they like bourbon so much, and why are they so self-conscious about their breath afterwards? You know, though I blame the president for that. But
because you know he was like drunk.
Also, like what?
Which is funny.
Also, just feels so funny that like that's the first thing that he says is like your breath. Like imagine if like you met Joe Biden and he was just like, oh, your breath.
Dude,
like, just like,
if Joe Biden was like, "Are you drunk?" I'd be like, "Yes, sir."
Yes, sir. Like,
I'd be like, yeah,
hello.
Definitely pregame this, Joe."
Hello, President Barack. Yeah, you need a mint. I'm like, oh god. You
know? That'd be rough.
That'd be embarrassing. Or if like Michelle said that, Michelle Obama. Oh my god, I would hate my life if she commented on my smell. No, she would never though. She's too cool. All right. Anything else on this episode, or can we call it a day? Can we put it to bed? What?
Yeah.
We looked at the ceiling like a bird flew into your room.
I heard a loud noise. I thought it might be thunder, and I don't like thunder, so I got nervous.
Oh, is it thundering? Let me check. Was it raining?
It wasn't raining. I can't tell if it's thunder or
no, it is. It's raining. It's not thundering, but it's raining. All right, well, y'all, it's raining in New York, so hope you stay dry this weekend. Any other words, Kels? Or
let's see what episode 5 brings.
Let's see. All right, you can find me at Dylan_Randazzo on Twitter, Dylan Randazzo 417 on TikTok. You'd also find the Dill Pickle Movie Network on YouTube, on podcast, and now on TikTok. We're not putting a lot of clips from our actual shows on there, but we're doing our own little things on there. But we will put some clips of things. Maybe us ranting about Secret Invasion at some point. I don't know, though. It might get us some hate tweets. Who cares?
Hey, where else can all press is good press. Oh, you can find me on Instagram, Kelsey A. Kilpatrick. You could find me on TikTok at Cause13 and watch out for some Marvel-based content on the Dill Pickle Movie Network TikTok as well. If you want to see what my top 4 Letterboxd movies are, you can check that out on TikTok right now.
Yeah. Otherwise, we'll see you next week for Secret Invasion episode 5. And then we're actually going to have a break before the finale. We're going to take 2 weeks because we're going to have some Marvel trivia, and then we'll do the 6th episode. I can't even keep that straight in my head. Otherwise, we'll see you next week, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.